When it comes to financial stability, most people think you need a massive salary, a trust fund from a distant relative who invented the toaster, or a portfolio of stocks that magically only go up. We look at people who seem calm about money, people who don't panic when their car breaks down or when the economy takes a nosedive, and we assume they must know some complex secret that we don't. We assume they are playing a different game. They tell you to hustle harder. They tell you to get a second job driving strangers around in your car at 2 a.m. They tell you to leverage your credit score to juggle balance transfers like a circus performer. And usually, following this advice results in the exact same outcome. You are exhausted, you are stressed, and you are living on a razor's edge where one single mistake, one missed paycheck, one medical emergency, one unexpected layoff sends your entire life crashing down into a spiral of debt and despair. The pain of living without a safety net is a specific type of anxiety. It is the low-level hum of dread that wakes you up at 3 a.m. It is the sinking feeling in your stomach when the check engine light turns on, because you know that little orange light isn't just a warning, it is a financial death sentence. It is the fear that you are merely a guest in your own life, liable to be evicted by bad luck at any moment. But if you want to sleep at night, if you want to walk through life with the confidence of a billionaire, even if you make a teacher's salary, it is actually easy. You don't need to be rich. You just need to build a floor beneath your feet. You just need the 6-month rule. So, why is this rule the difference between freedom and slavery? The logic behind the 6-month rule is best explained by looking at your life as a circus act. Imagine you are a tightrope walker. You are high up in the air, walking on a thin wire. This wire is your income. As long as you keep walking, as long as the paycheck keeps coming, you stay up. You can see the view. You can pay your bills. You look successful. But life is not a calm indoor arena. Life is windy. Sometimes a gust of wind comes out of nowhere. That's a recession. Sometimes someone throws a tomato at you. That's a lawsuit. Sometimes the wire just snaps. That's a layoff. If you are walking that wire without a net and you fall, you hit the concrete. That concrete is credit card debt. It is bankruptcy. It is moving back in with your parents at age 40. It is ruin. The 6-month rule is simply the act of weaving a safety net before you get on the wire. If you have the net, falling isn't a tragedy, it's just an inconvenience. You bounce, you get back up, you climb the ladder and start again. The math is actually simple. It looks like this. You take your survival expenses, not your income, but the bare minimum amount of money it takes to keep you alive and housed, and you multiply it by 6. Monthly survival cost times 6 equals your freedom number. If it costs you $3,000 a month to pay rent, buy groceries, keep the lights on, and pay minimum debt payments, then your number is $18,000. The aha moment comes when you realize that most people define wealth by how much stuff they have, cars, clothes, houses. But real wealth is measured in time. The 6-month rule buys you time. So, if you lose your job tomorrow with zero savings, you have about 2 weeks before you are desperate. You will take the first terrible job offer you get just to survive. You are a slave to immediate needs. But if you have 6 months of expenses in cash, you have bought yourself 180 days of freedom. You can take a month to breathe. You can wait for the right job. You can refuse to be mistreated by a toxic boss because you know you can walk away and be fine. The 6-month rule changes the power dynamic between you and the world. Now that we understand why we need the net, how do we actually weave it without starving? Step 1 is the easy first step, the bare bones calculation. You need to calculate exactly what your life costs if you stripped away all the fun. This is where people get confused. They look at their current spending, which includes Friday night sushi, Netflix, Spotify, and the gym membership they don't use, and they think, oh my God, I need to save $50,000. No, you need to calculate your zombie apocalypse budget. If the world ended for you financially, what do you absolutely need to pay? Rent, food, utilities, insurance, gas to get to job interviews. That's it. Here's a joke for you. Humans are the only species that will endure a global pandemic, a recession, and record-high inflation and still convince themselves that nothing bad will ever happen to me. We have a cognitive bias called the optimism bias. We think we are the main character in a movie who has plot armor. We think layoffs happen to other people. We think cancer happens to other people. The 6-month rule is the financial equivalent of accepting that you are not the main character. You are an extra, and the writers might kill you off in season 3 for shock value. You have to plan for the plot twist. So sit down and add up those survival numbers. If your fun life costs $5,000 a month, your survival life might only cost $3,000. That is the number you multiply by 6. Step 2 is the secret step most people miss, the high-yield separation. Once you have this cash, or while you are saving it, you cannot keep it in your checking account. If you keep your emergency fund in your checking account, you will accidentally spend it on a pizza. It is a law of nature. If the money is visible, the money is vulnerable. You need to open a high-yield savings account, HYSA, at a separate bank, a bank you do not use for daily checking. You want this money to be slightly annoying to get to. You want a 2-day transfer delay. This friction prevents impulse spending. Furthermore, a high-yield savings account pays you interest. If you leave $18,000 in a regular bank like Chase or Wells Fargo, they will pay you 0.01%, which is enough to buy a stick of gum once a year. If you put it in an HYSA earning 4% or 5%, that money will generate $700 to $900 a year in free money. Your safety net should be growing, not shrinking. Step 3 is the maintenance step, the refill protocol. The 6-month rule is not a set-it-and-forget-it box you check once. It is a living, breathing fund. Life happens. You will have a flat tire. Your dog will eat a sock and need surgery. You will have to fly home for a funeral. When these things happen, you use the fund. That is what it is for. You don't put these things on a credit card. You use the cash. But the moment you take $1,000 out, your life enters code red. You stop investing. You stop extra spending. You focus all your financial firepower on refilling that hole in the net until it is back to 6 months. You treat an incomplete emergency fund like a burning building. You put the fire out before you go back to watching TV. Now we have to do the reality check. I can hear the aggressive investors and the credit card hackers typing furiously right now. You might be thinking, John, keeping $20,000 in cash is stupid. Inflation is 3% and the stock market makes 10%. I am losing money by holding cash. I should invest it all and just use a credit card if I have an emergency. This is the most common objection, and it is a dangerous logical fallacy known as confusing solvency with liquidity. The rebuttal is simple. You are assuming that your emergency will happen when the stock market is up. But history tells us that emergencies love company. Usually, you lose your job because the economy crashed. Imagine it is 2008 or 2020. The stock market drops 40%. Simultaneously, you get laid off. If your emergency fund was invested in the stock market, you now have to sell your stocks at a 40% loss just to pay rent. You are locking in a massive loss. You are destroying your future wealth to pay for your present survival. As for the "I'll use a credit card" argument, that works fine until the credit card company lowers your limit or cancels your card because they see you are high risk and unemployed. And even if they don't, putting rent and food on a card at 25% interest turns a manageable problem into a bankruptcy-level disaster within a year. Cash is not an investment. Cash is insurance. You don't complain that your car insurance policy isn't making you money. You pay it so that if you crash your car, you aren't ruined. Your emergency fund is the insurance policy for your entire life. The ROI of cash isn't the 5% interest. It's the fact that you don't go bankrupt. Another obstacle people face is the sheer size of the number. It will take me 3 years to save 6 months of expenses. Good. Start today. Saving $1,000 covers 90% of the tiny problems. Saving 1 month covers the rent. Saving 3 months covers a job loss. Saving 6 months makes you bulletproof. The time is going to pass anyway. In 3 years, you can either have the safety net or you can be in the exact same precarious position you were in today. The 6-month rule forces you to confront the fragility of your lifestyle. If you can't save money because your bills are too high, the rule tells you that you are living above your means. It acts as a mirror. When you finally hit that number, when you log into your bank and see 6 months of freedom sitting there, your entire psychology changes. You walk taller, you are less stressed. You become a better employee because you aren't desperate. You become a better partner because you aren't anxious. The money sits there doing nothing so that you can do anything. So, to summarize, calculate your bare bones survival number, multiply it by 6, park it in a separate high-yield savings account, and never touch it unless the tightrope snaps. Anyway, I'm collecting donations in the form of subscribes to fund the next video. Good.